Welcome to the Cyber Safety News Show here on the Safety News Network. My name is Adam Blue, and each week we'll dive into the world of cybersecurity, maybe talk about the latest news when it comes to cyber attacks, or some of the latest defenses when it comes to protecting your data and learning more about ways you can be safe navigating the cyber world. Because this week we're going to talk about some popular software that during these times is used by tons that access sensitive data. We're going to get into that here shortly, but also a nation-state attack that occurred on Microsoft systems. And Microsoft said this didn't have to do with a vulnerability at all. This has to do with some nation-states. So high level, how do you get into a system? We're going to look into that too, because that's very interesting. But let's jump into this first news article. Top U.S. cybersecurity watchdog issues emergency directive to federal agencies about popular software. So, you're on the edge of your seat, right? What is the popular software? The top U.S. cyber watchdog agency issued an emergency directive Friday mandating that all federal agencies protect themselves against a dangerous vulnerability in a popular software program. But come on, what is the popular software? I'll get to it. The watchdog said it is conducting investigations into whether China had used the program to spy on the agencies. The program used by the agencies is called Avanti Connect Secure, which allows employees to remotely connect to work. So this is a program that tons of corporations are using around the world in order to be able to securely, virtually connect into that system's network in order to get access to the things that you would do if you were on site. And we know since COVID, a lot of work has become remote, so a lot of organizations do rely on this type of software to allow their employees to log into networks remotely. That's kind of the best way for an attacker to get into something, isn't it, if you think about it? Because it's basically the road to the organization. You just follow that road. So let's see what else it has to say here. A devastating vulnerability in the program, first discovered in December by the cybersecurity company Volexity. That's actually a neat new internet word I haven't heard before, can grant hackers significant access to the businesses or government agencies that use it, and allows for the creation of additional backdoors to return later. As news of the vulnerability has become widespread, at least 1,700 known organizations around the world have been hacked with it, Velocity has found. No, I'm saying Velocity, but it's Volexity. I gotta learn that. In a press call with reporters late Friday afternoon, Eric Goldstein, the executive assistant director at the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, our friend CISA, I think I talk about him every week, said that hackers have learned about the vulnerability and increasingly have tried to hack companies and government agencies that use Connect Secure. We have observed additional targeting of federal agencies as part of the broader opportunity campaign at this point. Each of those instances are under investigation by CISA and the relevant agency, Goldstein said. Someone tried to use the Avanti flaw to try to hack some federal agencies, Goldstein said, though it wasn't yet clear if any had been successful. Around 15 agencies used the software, he said. The hacking campaign echoes a strikingly similar one in 2021 when CISA announced that a vulnerability in an earlier version of the same program at the time called Pulse Secure had enabled hackers to gain access to multiple federal U.S. agencies. The cybersecurity company Mandiant, now owned by Google, said at the time that the hackers who had gained access to federal systems were members of a Chinese intelligence service conducting espionage. So here's something where we're talking about just Connect Secure, just a program that organizations have to use to allow their employees to connect to their networks. And that could be any industry, any vertical. It could be private, it could be government. And so what's going on here, I guess, it's potentially China, as they're saying, are using this software to not only get into companies, but federal agencies. So these are government attacks. Very interesting to see something like that because that's going to pop up in another story here shortly. So, I think it's pretty obvious when it comes to remote connecting software that could be leveraged. Because you're really getting keys to the kingdom if you can somehow get through that secure network. And so we're going to talk more about some state-sponsored hacks, potentially nation-state, but let's jump into this other one here and see if you're part of this group here. So 52% of serious vulnerabilities we find are related to Windows 10. But why would that be? How could it be that 52% of serious vulnerabilities we find are related to Windows 10? Well, it could be because a lot of people use Windows 10. I want to say there's even a graph down here. So, criticality of findings by operating system. Now, Windows 10 is at the highest with 62.3%, but I believe that's the case just because so many people are using Windows 10. Because remember, Windows 11 is like the latest. It's been around for a couple years now, if I'm not mistaken. I kind of can't keep up with that. I just always try to, upgrade when I can to have the latest in security. Now, it's interesting to see that there are findings in something like Windows 7. Now, that's all the way down here. It's critical, but it's like down in a little spot over here. And I think that really has to do with the fact that not many people are still using Windows 7 and shouldn't. There are some legacy systems in place. It really depends on, like, maybe if it's hospitals, manufacturing. Sometimes a Windows 7 computer is required because there's some proprietary software made on it in order to run some sort of system. It could be for printing. It could be for anything that has to interface with some sort of proprietary computer. But that's why it would also have, critical as its percentage here. And we can see that it's 8.9% of just high vulnerabilities. But it's just funny. It's always funny to see when I do my security assessments and I ever come across Windows 7 being used. It's like, wow, we're still using Windows 7, still accessing this corporate data on such an old system with critical vulnerabilities. So I wanted to show this off so you can kind of get an idea of what operating systems are still in use, in the numbers of what they're in use where there's high and critical vulnerabilities. A lot of people are Windows 10, but it is time to upgrade if you haven't. All right, we're going to move into some other news. Kind of having to do with Windows because this is Microsoft, but also about nation-state actors. So this is straight from Microsoft themselves. Microsoft actions following attack by nation-state actor Midnight Blizzard. That's their name, Midnight Blizzard. Okay, the Microsoft security team detected a nation-state attack on our corporate... because I guess this is a Microsoft article on Microsoft, so that's how they're speaking here. Let's see, on our corporate systems on January 12th, 2024, and immediately activated our response process to investigate, disrupt malicious activity, mitigate the attack, and deny the threat actor further access. Microsoft has identified the threat actor as Midnight Blizzard. That sounds super metal. That's like a metal band, right? The Russian state-sponsored actor, also known as Nobelium. Okay, so this is Russian state-sponsored, and they've got this metal band called Midnight Blizzard going out there tearing things up. Let's see what they did, though. As part of our ongoing commitment to responsible transparency, as recently affirmed in our Secure Future Initiative, we are sharing this update. Thank you. Beginning in late November 2023, the threat actor used a password spray attack to compromise a legacy non-production test tenant account and gain a foothold, and then used the account's permissions to access a very small percentage of Microsoft corporate email accounts, including members of our senior leadership team and employees in our cybersecurity, legal, and other functions, and exfiltrated some emails and attached documents. The investigation indicates they were initially targeting email accounts for information related to Midnight Blizzard itself. We are in the process of notifying employees whose email was accessed. The attack was not the result of a vulnerability in Microsoft products or services. To date, there's no evidence that the threat actor had any access to customer environments, production systems, source code, or AI systems. We will notify customers if any action is required. Well, it does say it was a password spray attack, which means that somehow, probably on the dark web, these attackers got a list of username and passwords. And one of those usernames probably had to be Microsoft. And so they had all the possible passwords it could be, and they just use a little script or program they run to just spray, attack all the passwords until one works. I mean, I guess they're saying, yeah, it wasn't a vulnerability in their system. That's true. This is an example of it being sort of a person, even though it's not like phishing, it's negligence of a person, where they happen to have a password that is out there and detected on the dark web, and they're using it currently. So if someone get that password, they can get into their system. So, okay. So let's see. As we said late last year when we announced, okay, yeah, we already read that. Actually, let me skip down. This will likely cause some level of disruption while we adapt to this new reality. But this is a necessary step and only the first of several we will be taking to embrace this philosophy. And so what's interesting here is you could see how big of a deal security is and how much it changes based on the types of attacks that do occur. And Midnight Blizzard might have tried to been looking for if Microsoft was on their tail, trying to figure out something that they had done before, and they can probably try to wipe traces of that. So it's hard for Microsoft or any of their cybersecurity defense to have like data that they can use to figure out what their next moves would be, the type of attacks they would use if they were even collecting that. So yeah, we are continuing our investigation. We'll take additional actions based on the outcomes of this investigation. We'll continue working with law enforcement and appropriate regulators. We're deeply committed to sharing more information and our learning so that community can benefit from both our experience and observations about the threat actor. We'll provide additional details as appropriate. So this is straight from Microsoft themselves with their current battle with Midnight Blizzard, which again sounds like an awesome metal band, a cool name for a group of bad guys that you got to go take out. But the scary thing is how these are, potentially state-sponsored attacks that we're seeing. We saw that VPN connection service I was talking about just a few articles ago, and it looked like China was using that as a way to get into federal agencies. Hey, and I'm sure our federal agencies are getting to China in some sort of way like that as well. But it's like, what is the end goal in this? So, from what we're seeing here is a lot this week, is a lot less of attacks on people, trying to get personal data from people, and more of, in general, just, these bigger, like, I don't know how to explain this. Like, what, I guess we wouldn't know. What are the plans? And is that why Midnight Blizzard would be attacking Microsoft to try to look up things about them? Is, our hackers are always trying to hide their tracks, so it's really hard for us to get to what are they trying to do exactly. And luckily we're not hearing this week about too many hospitals. There's still some more of that. It's always sad when it gets to when it affects people just living day to day. But when it comes to government agencies, it's like, what's the plan here? Are we trying to get to the nuclear launch codes? Are we trying to figure out if UFOs existed? Are we trying to take out power plants? I don't know. That stuff is kind of scary, kind of interesting. Just got to be careful out there. But anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed what you saw here. Feel free to leave a comment, like, subscribe. And yeah, we'll talk later. Have a good one.